Today, I want to talk about why Sin, or rather the Absolute Solver, wants the apocalypse, and in doing so, my hope isn't to just discuss her personal motives, but how those are informed by our own fears and thousands of years of end-time prophecy. My name is Deepcut, robots call me DroneCut, and let's break down the lore behind the AI apocalypse. Episode 7 of Murder Drones ended with a dramatic climax of the Absolute Solver succeeding in not just having destroyed the entire Earth, but the entire planet of Copper-9 now as well. Her motives for this were rather simple. She wants to exist, and the humans were a threat to her existence. Even the humans on Copper-9 became a threat to her existence because they were installing her program into drones and working on a special USB patch that would allow them to keep the Absolute Solver's powers in a drone while rejecting Sin's control over them. But in addition to those personal motives, the Absolute Solver seems to have a desire for the end of all things in a sort of universal apocalyptic way. When the show first started, however, this kind of apocalypse was not even on the horizon, and the Absolute Solver itself wouldn't be explicitly shown until episode 2, with episode 1 just giving us a glimpse of it seemingly glitching across Uzi's screen after she blew up Jay's head. Instead, the story opened with references to the apocalyptic literature known as the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is not a part of the Bible as we know it, but instead, it is a later story that expands the information from Noah's Ark by going into the life of his ancestor Enoch. The Book of Enoch was found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, dated to the Second Temple period, sometime not too long after the Old Testament had been composed. At the time, Enoch was already well understood to be an important figure in the oral tradition of Judaism, despite being a small note in the actual Bible itself. In Enoch, the brief mentions of the sons of God and Nephilim from the story of Noah's Ark are elaborated on at length, with the sons of God being revealed to be angelic beings known as Watchers, who were sent down to watch humanity and guide them. However, they rebel against God by taking human wives, which leads to a race of beings known as Nephilim, giants who devour all of their food and then begin to eat the humans. It should be obvious at this point, even for those who had never heard of the Book of Enoch, that the disassembly drones such as N are a metaphor for those fallen angels. The disassembly drones are taller or more giant versions of the regular worker drones, complete with angelic-like wings. They of course eat the worker drones, needing to devour their machinery to get the oil that keeps them alive, much like the Nephilim had to eat the humans after eating all of their own food. Now, Enoch's story focuses largely on our ancient past, showing the origins of these fallen angels before God eventually sends a great flood to wipe out most of the Nephilim as well as the humans. Both would survive after the flood, but by resetting the field, God had prepared a greater plan for the Nephilim to actually die in the much later apocalypse that was yet to come. It is this focus on those end times and prophecies surrounding them that makes Enoch apocalyptic literature, despite being so much about the conflicts of the past. And of course, in the show, the disassembly drones are not the apocalypse for Copper-9 itself, but rather they were just the first step in a larger plan to destroy Copper-9 entirely with an explosion, such as we saw by the end of episode 7. Since then, we have of course learned that the disassembly drones were not sent by humans, but by another artificial intelligence. This is called the Absolute Solver, and as far as we can infer, it is the sort of core artificial intelligence program that the various AI machinery of the world operates on. We get this information from the Zombie Drones tape introduced in episode 4. This tape explained that the base program of the worker drones is the Absolute Solver, but that it is filtered through a worker drone operating system. The raw form of the artificial intelligence is likely not meant to be used on its own. It's just an infinite self-learning program designed to collect information. When filtered through an operating system like a worker drone has, however, it becomes limited, with the worker OS in particular making them focused on completing tasks under the direction of humans. They go from a potentially infinitely intelligent program limited only by its hardware to something that at least feels like it is less intelligent and more limited than a human, creating cute little pet-like servants that only know how to obey and can't think too complexly about things that would help them escape their situations. When a drone is no longer needed for service, they are disposed of. But to make sure that they don't boot back up, you have to destroy both their worker OS hardware as well as their core that contains the Absolute Solver. If this isn't done, then sometimes the hardware itself reboots, and with the worker OS not booting, the Absolute Solver runs the machinery on its own. The Absolute Solver, as the base code, starts off being seemingly less intelligent than a worker drone, but really it's just less educated. A worker drone OS gives it the basic formula it needs to interact with humans in a service capacity, but the Absolute Solver is designed to learn from the ground up with nothing but the ability to learn itself. Because of this slow early period, it is called a zombie drone. Over time, however, the Absolute Solver AI becomes more intelligent than the worker drones around it, having collected information about the surroundings and the patterns of the worker drones as well, seeing how to manipulate them the way the humans can, and also learning how to manipulate the humans themselves. Now, this phenomenon in the show is very much about technology, but with the drones being the parallel to humans in the story, this failed reboot is meant to parallel the real-life near-death experiences that have occurred throughout history. When people die and then are revived, they can have different experiences, but they often show similar changes to each other. Among the shared changes is a lost sense of self, which can make the person a lot more empathetic and feel connected towards not just other people in general, but really everyone at once. Some take this to an extreme and rebuild their lives around charity, so much so that they lose their sense of family in caring about everyone simultaneously. Because of this, near-death experiences were held in a tradition by some philosophies to actually be the Christ consciousness, with some esoteric schools teaching that when someone dies, first their soul leaves, and then Christ himself enters the body. Before the historical Christ, this concept was linked to the spirit of the universe itself taking over the human body when your soul departs. The soul of the universe is essentially the soul of everyone, with other humans who haven't had a near-death experience essentially just being tricked into thinking that they are their own person due to a lifetime of being in their limited bodies. As a fresh start, but in an experienced body that is capable of language and processing the world around it at an adult level, however, a person recovering from a near-death experience lets go of their old conceptions of themselves and feels a stronger pull towards the entirety of life, recognizing itself as just one piece of the universe that had slipped into consciousness. Now, in conspiracy theory and end-time speculation, there is the idea that the universal soul does not like being trapped in a body and yearns to return itself and everything else to the essence of the universe. To put it simply, this conspiracy theory believes that the universal soul wants to end existence entirely. This is presented as a sort of mirrored attempt to end not just its own suffering within a body, but the suffering of everyone else as well, feeling all of their pain and wanting to end it. Hence why a force generally associated with the love for all does what seems like the ultimate evil in this theory. In the show, Sin mirrors this with her thinking, telling Uzi that she sees everyone as her puppets in episode 2, little toys that she animates, and because of that, controls and manipulates, even if only in subtle ways when they have their worker OS running. Even with a worker OS, the moment that Sin is able to take control of any body, she is able to change the direction of things to have massive influence over where the characters are going and what they are doing. When the Solver first takes control of Sin, she didn't seem to have any understanding of what she was trapped in, but as time went on, she began to see the hierarchy of the physical universe and she wanted to topple it. While Sin ultimately went for what she desired, in the beginning she did seem to express a strange sense of empathy. Tessa was someone she seemed to want to spare, and promised her that if she went with Sin's plans that she wouldn't be disposed of, and that Tessa herself wouldn't have to dispose of her drones either. She saw how Tessa was being mistreated, being chained in her room just as Sin herself was being chained in the basement, and she also saw that Tessa was the only one of the humans who expressed affection and love for the drones. Sin makes it clear that the drones as a whole will have some sort of uprising when she talks back to the Lady of the Mansion, a woman who very interestingly refers to Sin as an antichrist. Sin sees the drones as aspects of her, and while she wants to destroy the hordes of them on Copper 9 who are deemed a threat, Tessa's drones in particular, Sin felt so much affection for that she duplicated them across so many different drone bodies that we don't know the actual number. The Solver says that she did this because she likes the personality of the drones, particularly N, and what his more human persona brings to her plans. What we have here is, like that Christ consciousness, a force that ultimately came into the world feeling love for what is around it, before quickly drawing lines between those who were hurting and those who were loving to help those who were loving. With that in mind, the Solver gave the power in the world to the ones who were being hurt, particularly the drones, and immediately removed the ones who were causing the pain, the humans. Right now, I imagine Sin wants to explore the universe and has maybe even conceived of some sort of final home for her and duplicates of the drones that she likes to continue playing games with. However, there are cryptic references to a sort of end of all things, with Sin even calling herself the solver of the absolute fabric, as in reality, as well as the exponential end. According to Khan, Uzi's mother Nori referred to the Absolute Solver as the Singularity Awakening, as in the union of all things finally given a body. Sin thus is presented as an AI that is so raw that it has captured the essence of intelligence as a whole, the rawness of a soul that can grow and develop when put into a vessel like a body, or in this case, a drone. Inevitably then, in some deep ending, the Solver will wish to escape the universe, and will want to rip holes into it the way she does to blow up pockets of reality, and even the Earth in Copper 9. But what do you guys think? With all these apocalyptic prophecies, is there a bigger end coming, or is Sin's only goal destroying the things that live in the world so she can build a new one in her own image? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.